Welcome to this edition of the Breeze Blog. This is part 2 of the 3-part series, How Can the Hogwarts Express Make Designing Your Presentations Easier? But before we answer that question, let's review what we discussed in part 1. In part 1 of this series, we talked about how it can sometimes feel overwhelming to put together a presentation, and how you can sometimes feel a little lost on where to even begin. And we emphasized that how you structure your presentation really matters. So you want an easier way to not only remember how to structure it, but to make sure it will be more effective. The easier way we revealed was to use a simple analogy that your presentation is like a story train. In part 1, we also discovered how important the engine is to the story train, that you need to make sure it's the powerhouse of the train. We need to build up steam in the engine by using a story format, and previewing the answers to the journalist's questions, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And we stressed the importance of answering that main question that your audience has at the beginning of every presentation. Why should I pay attention to this presentation? And a great way to answer that why question that we discovered was a simple formula: pain plus your product or presentation equals pleasure. We concluded part 1 by suggesting that if you put in the effort and do these things effectively, you create the power you need to get the audience interested in actually boarding your train cars and beginning the journey with you. Now, the question we left off with in part 1 that we're going to answer in this article, part 2, is what 2 things will they find once they board the train cars that will keep them on board and enjoying the ride? Let's find out. The cars of your story train are the body of your presentation. As you can see, they're the categories, the sections, or the chapters that contain the contents, the body of your presentation. This is where you explain your key points and provide supporting details. Now, most people are already pretty good at this part, but there are a couple of things you want to address when it comes to your train cars, which we all sometimes forget. And one of those things is to make sure each car has a candy cart. This is what makes the journey much more enjoyable for your passengers. Some examples that might be on the candy cart of your presentation would be eye candy, images, quotes, scenarios, humor, case studies. All these types of things help keep people on that train and glad to be on it. The second thing is to make sure each car has a hook, that each car is securely fastened to the other cars with segues, transition, hooks. Basically something that not only lets them know that you've started a new section, but makes them actually want to know what's in that section. You might pose a new problem, ask a question that they'll want answered, or use phrases that keep attention, like, for instance, "But wait, there's more." On the transcript of this video, there's a link to a swipe file that has phrases that help keep attention. So the cars are the sections of your presentation, and you'll want to make sure that they have more than just raw data. If you remember the candy carts and the hooks, it can really improve your cars. But wait, your train doesn't end with the train cars. But what's so important about the caboose? We'll find out in part 3.